Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Mataji, program is over and Prabhuji will talk to you in Bengali. Prabhuji, talk to these people in Bengali. The morning program is over. Now this is the second phase, which is Ram Katha. So please, you should be living with your children and the clothes. Thanks for coming. See you Sunday. Sunday we have this Ram Navami. Make sure you show up for the Ram Navami program. Now, as per custom and tradition, yes, we have done this for last 5 days. Let's continue the parampara or the tradition to pray to our Guru, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Sadma Shri Guru Charan Padma Keval Bhakti Sadma Bando Mui Savan Mate Bando Mui Savan Mate Zahara prasade bai ebav turiya jaye Zahara prasade bai ebav turiya jaye Krishna prapti hoye jahan hai te Krishna prapti hoye jahan hai te Guru mukha padma vakya chitte koriya kya Guru mukha padma vakya chitte koriya kya ar na kori ho man asha 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 Shri Guru Charane Rati Yaise Uttam Gati Shri Guru Charane Rati Yaise Uttam Gati Je prasade pure sarv आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते, प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते, वेद गाय जार चरितो, वेद गाय जार चरितो, श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनारा बंधु, श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनारा बंधु, लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना, लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना। हा प्रभु करो दया, देहु मोहे पद छाया, हा प्रभु करो दया, देहो मोरे पद छाया, एब जाएगी सुख त्रिभुवन, एब जाएगी सुख त्रिभुवन। शील प्रभुपाद पतित पावन, शील प्रभुपाद पतित पावन, जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा, प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद। So today we will be reading from Ramayana, further studies. Today is the 6th day, and we are very fortunate to have blessings from Srila Prabhupada and the entire Guru Parampara. So now, we already witnessed certain good events, and that is why we will be reading further what exactly happened after the birth of Ram, Sita, Lakshmana, Hanuman, and all the demigods. They took part in this particular Ram Leela. So here it says, after Rama, Lakshmana, Bharat and Shatrughna completed their education, Maharaja Dashrath began to consult with his family priest, Vasishtha, about their marriages. So after certain age, parents always think of wedding ceremonies, and they arrange with the proper match, and they perform the wedding ceremony for the children. Now I again announce, I don't speak Bengali, but I know that you understand English. The morning program is over. Please go downstairs. There is plenty of halls. We have big halls, big temple. Go upstairs, go in the library, go to some other area, because we are not supposed to allow the children during the live streaming. So please take your children downstairs. Thank you very much. So, after Ram, Lakshmana, Bharat and Shatrughna complete their education, Maharaj Dashrath began to consult with his family priest, Vasishtha, about their marriages. During one such discussion, the great and powerful Brahmarshi Vishwamitra arrived in Ayodhya. When he entered the palace, Maharaj Dashrath and Vasishtha immediately got up from their seats to greet him. After worshipping Vishwamitra properly, Dashrath brought him into the court and seated him on a throne. Maharaj Dashrath greeted Vishwamitra saying, O foremost of saintly persons, may all your endeavors to conquer repeated birth and death meet with success. I consider your coming here as welcome a gift as nectar placed in one's own hands, as torrential rainfall after a long drought, as the birth of a son for one who was childless, as the recovery of a great treasure that was considered irrevocably lost, or as the joy one feels on a festive occasion. When Vishwamitra then asked about Maharaj Dashrath's welfare, the king humbly replied, O great sage, your coming here is a great blessing for me. Indeed, you have bestowed a great honor upon me. Please inform me of your desire so that I may serve the purpose of your visit. Pleased with Maharaj Dashrath's reception, Vishwamitra replied, I was engaged in the performance of a great sacrifice, and it had almost reached completion when two Rakshasas named Maricha and Subahu interrupted the performance by dropping flesh and blood upon the sacrificial arena. These vicious Rakshasas are determined to frustrate my attempt. Thus, they have repeatedly polluted my altar. O king, so that I may successfully complete the sacrifice, I have come here to take your son, Rama, to my ashram to kill these terrible Rakshasas. Please do not hesitate to fulfill my request out of parental affection, for I assure you that Ram will easily be able to accomplish this task. In return for your generosity, I shall certainly give you ample benedictions. Therefore, please allow me to take Rama for just 10 days. You may rest assured that he will return here safely. Vishwamitra's words pierced the very core of Maharaj Dashrath's heart. The king's entire body began to tremble. Then, after the sage fell silent, he fainted upon his throne. Moments later, when Maharaj Dashrath regained consciousness, he again considered the prospect of losing Rama and fainted for a second time, falling down onto the floor. After an hour, the king regained consciousness. Then, upon seeing Vishwamitra before him, he pleaded, O foremost of sages and well-wisher of everyone, my dear son Ram is only 16 years old. He has not even finished his military training and has never entered the battlefield. Please do not ask for my inexperienced son. Instead, let me accompany you along with him, Ashodhani of soldiers to kill the Rakshasas. However, if you insist that Ram must go, then let me and my army come to fight alongside him. My dear Vishwamitra, I am an old man. Without Rama, I could not bear to continue the living. Please tell me, who are these two Rakshasas and what is the extent of their prowess? Vishwamitra replied, the king of the Rakshasa is named Ravana and is now oppressing the entire world. When he does not personally construct and obstruct his fire sacrifice, he disputes these two powerful Rakshasas, Marichi and Subahu, to do the mischief. Upon hearing the name of Ravana, Maharaj Dashrath became increasingly despondent. He said, No one is capable of fighting with Ravana. Just these two Rakshasas are too formidable, either for my son or for me. Therefore, O sage, I cannot fulfill your request. Indeed, I cannot bear to think of allowing my son to accompany you. Becoming nearly mad with grief, Maharaja Dashrath began to speak, incoherently refusing Vishwamitra's request. Thus, the sage became highly insulted and angrily declared, O foolish king, your impudence will cause the ruin of your dynasty. You have promised to serve me and have now gone back on your word. Such behavior towards a Brahmana has never before been heard of it in Raghu dynasty. Therefore, I shall quickly leave this condemned place. Because of Vishwamitra's sudden anger, the earth began to shake, and even the demigods in heaven became afraid. Appraising the situation, Vasistha hurried, approached Maharaja Dashrath, saying, O king, do not destroy all your previously acquired merit by abandoning righteousness. You have made a solemn promise and must now fulfill Vishwamitra's request by giving him your son Rama. I do not think you have anything to fear. Formerly, when Vishwamitra was a king, he received celestial weapons from Lord Shiva, which had been born of Daksha's daughters, Jaya and Suprabha. Vishwamitra will surely give these weapons to Rama, as well as the necessary prowess to kill the Rakshasas. Indeed, Vishwamitra could easily kill Marich and Subahu himself, but is seeking Rama's help just to enhance the glory of the sons. So this is a very wonderful message to the devotees. If you know whose son is or daughter is, please inform the parents. Anybody? Nobody knows him? Hello? Out, out. After hearing his preceptor's words, Maharaja Dashrath's fear subsided, allowing his mind to again become balanced. Thus specified, the king agreed to Vishwamitra's proposal. Maharaja Dashrath then summoned Rama to royal court because the two were inseparable. Lakshmana also presented himself before his father. Maharaja Dashrath affectionately smelled his son's hair, and the brothers then departed with Vishwamitra's walking in front, Ram and Lakshman following, their bows and hands. As they left the palace, flowers showered on them from the sky. So, one side, father's love for the children, and second side is the sage. But of course, you may be king of the world, but when it comes to guru and spiritual life or spiritual aspect of your life, then you have to sacrifice your personal life and personal love. So this is the example. But this is a story which happened many, many years back, not now. After walking along the banks of river Saryu for 12 miles, Vishwamitra stopped and said, My dear Rama, Please sip some water for purification. I shall now teach you two mantras known as Bal and Atibal. After learning them, you will become freed from the influence of fatigue and old age, and also gain incomparable wisdom and strength. Although I know that these qualities already exist in you, I still want to impart these mantras unto you for your benefit. After receiving the mantras, Lord Rama shone with the brilliance of 1,000 suns. The three then spent the night happily on the bank of Saryu and Ganga. Upon seeing an ashram of sages situated there, Rama inquired about its history. Vishwamitra then replied, "This is very place where Lord Shiva burned Cupid to ashes after God of love tried to disturb his deep meditation." The next morning, Vishwamitra and the two brothers crossed Ganga. While in midstream, Rama could hear the loud sound of cascading water. Although there seemed no apparent reason for the sound, asked what this was. Vishwamitra explained. Once Lord Brahma created a lake from his mind. The reservoir of water became known as a Manas Sarovar. The river Saryu flows from that lake, and the sound you hear is the water coming down from the Manas Sarovar and joining with Ganga. O Rama, you should offer your prayers and obeisances at this sacred place. After arriving at the southern bank of the Ganga, Rama saw a dense, uninhabited forest and thus inquired, "This desolated forest invokes fear in the heart of whoever beholds it. Please tell me why." Vishwamitra replied, "After King Indra killed the apparent demon Rutrasura, he became overwhelmed by sinful reactions and lost his splendor. To restore Indra to his normal condition, the demigod bathed him in Ganga water, empowered with Vedic mantras, and then taking the water containing Indra's impurities, the demigod deposited in this place. Because this land accepted his sinful reactions, Indra gave it the benediction that it would become a very prosperous country. In this way, two flourishing kingdoms named Malada and Karusa were established here. Later on, however, a wicked Rakshasi named Taraka came here and began to terrorize the citizens. This Rakshasa woman was the wife of Sunda, and son is Maricha, whom I have brought you here to kill. Gradually, all of the inhabitants of this place became so greatly harassed by Taraka that now it remains deserted. My dear Rama, I want you to destroy this she-demon today, freeing this country from this oppression. As long as this Rakshasi lives, no one will even dare to enter this forest. Lord Rama then asked, "O great sage, if it is appropriate, please explain how this Rakshasi became so powerful." Vishwamitra replied, "There was once a powerful Yaksha named Suketu, who pleased Lord Brahma by his performance of severe austerities. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva ki." The deities look so beautiful today. Everyone, please take your seats now if you have finished prayers. We have live streaming going on. Right now, the camera is here. Be out of your sight and take your children out if possible. Vishwamitra replied, "There was once a powerful yaksha named Suketu who pleased Lord Brahma by his performance of severe austerities. Being childless, Suketu desired a son, but instead Lord Brahma awarded him a powerful daughter. This very beautiful girl was named Taraka. And when she grew up, she was given in marriage to Sunda, the son of Jamba. Later, the sage Agastya cursed Sunda to die. In their attempt to retaliate, Taraka and her son Marich rushed at the sage, hoping to devour him. However, Agastya immediately cursed both mother and son to become man-eating Rakshasas. Thus, the beautiful Taraka became transformed into the horrible-looking ogress. Because Agastya Rishi used to meditate in this area, Taraka is obsessed with creating disturbances here. Vishwamitra continued, "My dear Rama, please understand that Taraka is thoroughly wicked. Therefore, cast aside all hesitation in killing a woman. Remember how Indra formerly killed Virochana's daughters when she desired to ravage the earth. Likewise, Lord Vishnu killed the wife of Bhrigu Muni when she had desired to slay Indra. Please then shake off all uneasiness and prepare yourself to fulfill my command." Receiving this order, Rama twanged with bow. Its awesome sound reverberated throughout the four directions, terrifying all creatures that heard it. When Taraka heard the sound of the Lord Rama's bow, she became simultaneously struck with wonder and inflamed with rage. She rushed madly towards the place from where the sound had emanated. When Rama saw her approaching, he exclaimed, "O Lakshmana, just see this hideous and gigantic creature. She is so horrible that pious hearts break at the very sight of her. Still, since this Rakshasi is a woman, I shall not kill her. Instead, I will render her harmless by cutting off her hands, feet, nose, and ears. Thus, mutilated, she will not be able to commit further crimes." Rushing towards Taraka, created a dust storm that temporarily blinded Rama and Lakshmana. Then, using her powers of illusion, Taraka created a shower of stones. Regaining his composure, Rama smashed all the rocks to pieces and then quickly cut off Taraka's arms. Simultaneously, Lakshmana cut off Taraka's ears and Ram, urging the tip of her nose. However, by utilizing her mystic powers, Taraka immediately disappeared. While remaining invisible, she again began showering stones. With an impassioned voice, Vishwamitra then urged, "O Ram, twilight is rapidly approaching, and at that time the Rakshasa's prowess greatly increases. Therefore, give up your merciful attitude and kill Taraka at once." As Ram reached a shower of arrows, Taraka suddenly became visible and rushed towards him. Undisturbed, Rama selected an especially wonderful golden arrow from his quiver and shot it at the demoness. Although Taraka rushed towards at the speed of Indra's thunderbolt. Rama's single blazing arrow pierced Tarka's chest, causing her to fall to the ground dead. Making a tumultuous sound from the heavens, and demigods applauded and threw down showers of flowers. The Gandharvas and Apsaras began to sing and dance in ecstasy, and great sages praised the prowess of Lord Rama. The demigods, headed by Indra, then approached Vishwamitra in private and said, O Rishi, because Rama has a very important mission to accomplish on your behalf, you should now impart to him all your knowledge of celestial weapons. After saying this, the demigods disappeared, and Vishwamitra, Rama, and Lakshmana happily spent the night there. The next morning, Vishwamitra imparted unto Ram his complete knowledge of celestial weapons. When Rama received the mantras for these celestial weapons, the weapons appeared before him in their personified forms, saying, O Rama, please give us your order. What service can we do for you? Rama replied, my request is that all of you appear before me when I think of you. After receiving this commandment, the personified weapons disappeared. Vishwamitra, Rama, and Lakshmana continued on their journey. Later in the day, as the party approached Vishwamitra's ashram, known as Siddhashram, Rama inquired from Rishi about the history of the holy place. Vishwamitra then explained, Siddhashram was formerly the abode of Lord Vamana, who dwelt there for many hundreds of millenniums. Once the demigods came to see Lord Vamana, request him to approach Bali Maharaj, who was engaged in performing sacrifices. Since the king of demons had conquered the entire three worlds, the demigods petitioned Lord Vamana to take away his kingdom by begging. Just at this time, Kashyapa, who happened to arrive at the Siddhashram, and after worshipping Vamana with great devotion, he prayed for the Lord to appear as his son. The Lord agreed to do so, and then he later took birth as a dwarf Brahmana, son of Kashyapa and Aditi. He thus fulfilled the purpose of demigods by taking away the kingdom of Bali Maharaj on the plea of begging for 3 steps of the land. After arriving at this ashrama, Vishwamitra immediately set about performing his sacrifice, while Ram and Lakshman, with bows in hand, awaited the arrival of Marich and Subahu. 6 days and nights passed as the 2 brothers guarded the sacrifice arena, completely foregoing sleep. Then, on the critical 6th night, when the Soma Rasa was about to be extracted, the sacrificial fire suddenly blazed brightly, indicating the imminent arrival of the Rakshasas. Soon thereafter, a fearful clamor was heard in the sky. Marich, Subahu, and their followers swooped down without warning, causing torrent of blood, pus, stool, flesh, and other contaminated substances to rain down upon the sacrificial altar. Lord Rama then told Lakshmana, I will subdue these evil Rakshasas with my weapons, but I shall not kill them, for they are destined to live some years more. Ram discharged a mighty weapon that struck Maricha in the chest and flung him 100 yojan into the middle of the ocean, but did not kill him. Then, taking up another powerful arrow, Rama pierced Subahu's chest, causing him to fall down and dead upon the ground. By invoking a third weapon, Rama drove away all the other Rakshasas. Thereafter, the area again became calm. All sages who had previously resided at Siddhashram joyfully came home and congratulated Lord Rama for his wonderful accomplishment. That evening, the sacrifice was successfully concluded. After passing the night, Rama came before the sages and inquired, O worshipable Brahmanas, now that this area has been freed from the disturbances caused by Rakshasas, is there anything more that we can do for your service? So, this is the what you call example. We all have to learn that how to serve Guru. And they are so humble that once they do one service, they ask for another service. And when they are given the second service, they ask for third service now. So at the behest of Vishwamitra, the sages replied, we are about to depart for kingdom of Mithila to take part in the grand sacrifice arranged by King Janaka. We request you two brothers to accompany us. There is a wonderful bow being kept in the sacrificial arena that was formerly presented to demigods by Lord Shiva. Later, the demigods gave the bow to Devarata, who was a king of Mithila long ago. This celestial bow is immeasurably strong, and even great demigods cannot bend it. What to speak of human beings? The bow has remained at Mithila for a long time and is worshipped on the altar with flowers, sandalwood paste, and other auspicious articles. Rama agreed to accompany the sages, and thereafter a great caravan set out with 100 cars loaded with the paraphernalia required for Janak Maharaj's sacrifice. After traveling all day, the party reached the banks of the Sona river, where they stopped for a night. Then, while he was seated at leisure, Rama asked Vishwamitra if there was any history he could narrate concerning that place. Thus, the sages related to Ram the following story. Once there was a great sage named Kusha, a direct son of Lord Brahma. Kusha had 4 Kshatriya sons who founded 4 cities, one of which was on bank of the river Sona. Kusha's son, Kushanabha, begot 100 daughters through the Apsara. When these girls grew up, they were very powerful and would happily play together on the banks of river. Once the demigod of air, Vayu, happened to see the girls and became captivated by their exclusive beauty. Approaching them, Vayu said, my dear beautiful girls, if you are become any wives, I shall transfer your fleeting human beauty into ever-fresh celestial youthfulness. The girls had no attraction for Vayu, however, and instead felt insulted. They replied, we would never think of choosing our own husbands. We will only marry according to the choice of our father. Being the daughters of a great Rajarshi, we certainly have the power to curse you for your vulgar behavior. However, we shall not do so, for we do not wish to diminish the accumulated merit of our austerities. Vayu, who is easily angered, became highly offended. Taking revenge, he subtly entered the bodies of 100 girls and by his mystic power distorted their bodies' features. When the girls returned to their palace crying, their father was shocked to see that they had all been transformed into hunchbacks. In reply to Kushanaba inquiries, the girls related all what had happened. Maharaja Kushanaba congratulated his daughters for refraining from cursing Vayu and began considering how he could get them married. Previously, a great brahmachari named Chuli had been performing severe austerities. An unmarried Gandharva girl attended to him like a menial maid servant. Eventually, Chuli became pleased by her selfless service and offered her a benediction. The girl requested the sage to give her an exceptional son while allowing her to remain a virgin. Chuli agreed and thus appeared a mind-born son of great ascetic prowess named Brahmadatta. Later, Brahmadatta ruled as a king, and it was he whom Kushanaba decided would be a suitable match for his daughters. Thus, after being invited to Kushanaba's palace, Brahmadatta accepted the 100 girls. Upon touching their hands at the marriage ceremony, one after other, their bodily deformities vanquished, and each girl became beautiful again. Vishwamitra then concluded his narration by explaining Kushanaba had no son. However, so he performed a sacrifice for the purpose. As a result, Ghadi was later born to Kushanaba, and I am the son of King Ghadi. The next morning, the party continued their journey, and by evening they reached the bank of Ganga. As they passed the night there, Rama requested Vishwamitra to narrate the history of the river Ganga. Thus Vishwamitra related the following story. The presiding deity of Himalayas, Himavan, begot two daughters by Meena and daughter of Mount Meru named Ganga and Uma. Once upon a time, Lord Brahma approached Himavan and requested him to allow the demigods to adopt Ganga for the further welfare of the universe. Himavan readily agreed and later gave his daughter Uma to Lord Shiva, for she had always meditated upon him while performing severe austerities. After receiving Uma, Lord Shiva began enjoying with her in an uninterrupted conjugal relationship. However, even after passing 100 celestial years in conjugal embrace, no offspring came from their combination. At this time, the demigods approached Lord Shiva and begged, "Please desist from your sexual activities, O Lord, for we fear that the offspring produced will be too powerful for the universe to bear. Instead, we humbly request you to restrain yourself and practice austerities and meditation." Lord Shiva replied, "I accept your proposal, for my heart is actually inclined towards self-realization. However, since my semen has already become unseated from my heart, it will have to be received somewhere." The demigods then suggested, "Let the earth, which can bear any amount of burden, receive your seed." Thereafter, Lord Shiva released his powerful semen and proceeded to cover the entire surface of the earth. Upon seeing this, the demigods feared the earth might crack. Thus they began praying to Agni and Vayu, requesting them to devour the all-encompassing semen of Lord Shiva. In answer to the demigod's prayers, Agni took the help of Vayu and went to consume the semen. As soon as the fire god touched it, some of the Lord's semen turned into white mountain, and part of the further transport into thicker of effulgent white reeds. The rest of the semen remaining unchanged and was conserved within Agni. The demigods were elated to see that earth had been saved from the impending calamity. These grateful hearts, they went to worship Lord Shiva and his wife. However, Uma was very angry with the demigods for interrupting her while she was absorbed in sexual enjoyment. Seeing the demigods before her, Uma cursed them, saying, "May all your wives become barren. Likewise, let the earth not only remain childless, but also come to have an uneven surface." And he ruled over by numerous kings. Thereafter, Lord Shiva and Parvati retired to northern Himalayas to perform austerities. Sometime later, when the demigods were being harassed by demons, they approached Lord Brahma, hoping to inquire a formidable military commander. In reply to the demigod's plea, Lord Brahma advised them, "Because of Parvati's curse, you are unable to produce a child to serve your purpose. Therefore, I suggest that Agni place the semen of Lord Shiva into womb of Ganga. In this way, a heroic son will be begotten." Thereafter, the demigods approached Agni and related Lord Brahma's instructions. Hearing this, Agni approached the heavenly river Mandakini Ganga. He then requested her to accept the semen of Lord Shiva, which he has been holding for a long time. Ganga agreed to the proposal. Then, after assuming a most beautiful form, she allowed herself to be impregnated by Agni. However, soon after receiving the fiery semen of Lord Shiva, Ganga Devi felt an intense agonizing pain. With great agitation, she told Agni, "I cannot continue to bear the semen of Lord Shiva in my womb. It's burning intolerable." Agni then instructed Ganga to cast off the semen at a certain place in Himalayas, and she hurriedly went there. In this way, the semen of Lord Shiva, which had acquired a shining golden luster because of its contracting Ganga Devi, fell to the thicket of the white reeds on the white mountain. In this way, a wonderful child was born. Other portions of the semen that fell upon the earth transformed into gold and silver mines. Indeed, because of the fierce energy of Lord Shiva's semen, mines of copper and iron were created in distant places. After the birth of child, the demigods brought 6 goddesses called Krutikas to nurse him. They assumed the woman that the baby would come to be known as their son. For this reason, the child became known as Kartikeya. The boy was also called Skanda, to flow, because he had fallen from womb of Ganga. Because he saw 6 mothers before him, the baby assumed 6 species to suck breast milk from all of them. Skanda was so strong that when he was only 1 day old, he killed many fierce demons as the commander-in-chief of the demigods. So here we are learning some of the deities have like 1 head, sometimes 2 head, 3 head, 4 head, 5 head. Now Kartikeya has 6 heads. Vishwamitra then related to Lord Rama the story of King Sagara, who long ago ruled the world from his capital Ayodhya. Because Maharaj Sagar was unable to beget a son, he along with his 2 wives went to the Himalayas to perform austerities. After some time, the king was benedicted by the great Rishi Bhrigu with the boon that he would receive a son by 1 wife who would become the perpetuate of his dynasty, while his other wife would give birth to 60,000 more sons. Hearing this, the two queens questioned Bhrigu Muni, who would receive the one son and who would receive the 60,000 sons. Bhrigu replied that the decision would be left to them. Thus, the Keshini, the elder queen, chose to have a single son who would perpetuate the Ikshvaku line. Sumati, the sister of Garuda, chose to have 60,000 sons. Maharaja Sagara returned home, and due course, a son was born to Keshini and given the name Asamanjasa. Sumati, however, gave birth to the lump of flesh shaped like a bitter melon. Shortly thereafter, when the lump was opened up, 60,000 embryonic sons emerged. They were immediately placed in a jar of ghee by their nurses until they could complete their development. Later then, these 60,000 sons began growing up. Their cruel elder stepbrother, Asamanjusa, began to throw them into the river Saryu, laughing with great pleasure to see them drown. Being very aggrieved due to the vicious behavior of this son, Maharaja Sagar finally decided to exile Asamanjus from his kingdom, although he kept son of Asamanjus. Anshuman was loved by all subjects. After some time, Maharaja Sagar inaugurated the performance of the horse sacrifice with Anshuman protecting the challenge horse as it wandered over the earth. However, during the performance of the sacrifice, King Indra appeared in the guise of a Rakshasa and stole the horse from sacrificial arena. The priest fervently urged Maharaja Sagara to recover this horse at all cost. He warned that if the sacrifice remained incomplete, it would be the most inauspicious. Maharaja Sagara then ordered his 60,000 sons to reach the entire earth for the horse, allotting each of them 1 square yojan. He further instructed his sons that if the horse could not be found elsewhere, they should look below the earth. Thus, as Maharaja Sagar and his grandson Anshuman waited at the sacrificial arena, the 60,000 princes searched the entire earth. When they were unable to find horse anywhere, the sons of Sagara began digging into the earth. This, however, upset the inhabitants of the lower worlds, such as Nagas. Indeed, even the earth herself became extremely disturbed. Saying this, the demigods approached Lord Brahma and petitioned him to set right to situation. Lord Brahma pacified the demigods, explaining that since the earth was a consort of Lord Vishnu, the Lord, in his form of Kapila, would soon annihilate all 60,000 sons of Sagara. Even after digging up the earth and killing many living beings in the process, the sons of Sagara could not find the sacrificial horse, and thus returned to their father disappointed. When the 60,000 princes inquired from their father what they should do next, the king ordered them to continue digging further down until the horse was found. The sons of Sagara resumed their excavation of all 4 quarters of the earth's surface and soon came to see the 4 colossal elephants that protect the 4 directions and support the earth. These gigantic elephants support the entire weight of the earth upon their backs, and when, due to exertion, they sometimes shake their heads for relief, it creates earthquakes. Finally, after penetrating the earth all the way down to the Rasatala, the sons of Sagara came upon Lord Kapila sitting in meditation, while nearby the sacrificial horse stood, gazing peacefully. Sagara's son assumed Kapila to be the thief of the sacrificial horse. Thus they angrily took up their digging implements and rushed to kill him. Seeing this act of aggression, Kapila became angry. Then, simply by uttering the mantra Hum, he reduced the 60,000 sons of Sagara to ashes. After a long time, when his sons were not returned, Maharaja Sagara sent to his grandson Anshuman to search for his 60,000 sons and the sacrificial horse. By following the path his uncles had taken, Anshuman came to the passage excavated by them. After entering the earth, Anshuman came upon the great elephants and inquired from them about the whereabouts of their uncles. In reply, the elephants assured him that by continuing down the passage, he would soon come to know everything. At last, Anshuman reached the place where the ashes of the sons of Sagara lay. Saying this, he became overwhelmed with grief. Anshuman found the sacrificial horse nearby and decided to first offer water for the departed souls of his uncles before returning to his grandfather. Unfortunately, there was no water to be found in that place. While Anshuman was thinking that to do, Garuda suddenly appeared and said, My dear Anshuman, do not grieve for your uncles. Their deaths are ultimately meant for achieving a glorious purpose. The sons of King Sagara will be instrumental in bringing the sacred river Ganga down to the earth for the welfare of all people. Your uncles were burned to ashes by the great sage Kapila. When their remains are washed over by the waters of the Ganga, they will attain a heavenly destination. Now, take the sacrificial horse and return to your grandfather so that sacrifice can be completed. The Aarti is going to be at 6 o'clock. So, if you can stay up to 6 o'clock, you will be able to see Aarti also. With the return of the sacrificed horse, Maharaja Sagar successfully concluded the sacrifice. After hearing from Anshuman the prophetic words of Garuda, the king became absorbed in trying to formulate the means to make the Ganga descend to the earth. However, Maharaja Sagar passed away before achieving that goal. After the death of grandfather Anshuman ruled the kingdom for some time. He later gave the throne to his son Dilip and retired to the forest to perform austerities, hoping to induce Ganga to descend to earth. After his death, Anshuman went to the heavenly planets, but his desire to cause the descent of the Ganga remained unfulfilled. Dilip also sought to bring Ganga to earth, but he too died before his desire for fulfilled. Dilip's son Bhagirath then inherited the kingdom and likewise desired to perform austerities to cause Ganga to descend. Since he had no son, Bhagirath entrusted the rule of the kingdom to his ministers and retired to the forest. After Maharaja Bhagirath had performed austerities for 1,000 years, Lord Brahma became pleased with him. Accompanied by demigods, Lord Brahma appeared before the king to award him a benediction. Maharaja Bhagirath worshipped Lord Brahma and then begged, "Please allow my ancestors, the sons of King Sagara, to receive the water of Ganga. In addition, kindly benedict me to have a son." Lord Brahma replied, "I agree to award you these benedictions. However, the earth is incapable of bearing weight of the Ganga's descent. You should request Lord Shiva to absorb the impact of the falling water, for only he is powerful enough to do so." Determined to gain Lord Shiva's favor, Maharaja Bhagirath began performing severe austerities. He stood motionless on the tip of a single toe for 1 year. At that time, Lord Shiva was pleased to appear before the king. When Maharaja Bhagirath expressed his desire, Lord Mahadev agreed to bear the force of the Ganga's falling water upon his head. Soon after, the Ganga began to descend towards earth from her course in heavenly planets. All the demigods assembled to witness the spectacle. However, when Ganga Devi saw Lord Shiva was prepared to take her upon his head, she considered that his contract would contaminate her. Thus, upon seeing the expression of disgust displayed by Ganga Devi, Lord Shiva became insulted. In retaliation, he angrily captured her and considered her waters within his matted hair, throwing her descent to earth. When Maharaja Bhagirath saw how Ganga had become entangled, he assumed his austerities. Finally, Lord Shiva gave up his anger and released Ganga Devi, allowing her to fall into Bindu Sarovar in the Himalayas. Afterwards, the Ganga split into 7 streams. 6 of these form other rivers, while the 7th followed Maharaja Bhagirath as he rode upon his royal chariot. While wending her way through various lands, it so happened that Ganga inundated sacrificial arena of great sage Jahanu. Becoming excited with rage, the sage swallowed up the river. Upon seeing this, the demigods were struck with wonder. They then approached Jahanu and requested him to release Ganga Devi on the condition that she would become known as his daughter. And the sage agreed. And thus the Ganga was able to continue her journey. Finally, the Ganga reached the site that had been excavated by the sons of Sagara. By entering that great crevices, the Ganga went down to Rasatala. In doing so, she submerged the ashes of Sagara's 60,000 sons, enabling them to reach their heavenly destination. Lord Brahma appeared once more before Maharaja Bhagirath and declared, "O king, your mission has now been accomplished. From this time forward, the Ganga shall be known as your daughter Bhagirathi." That's why he's known as a Bhagirathi. After thus delivering his forefathers, Maharaja Bhagirath returned to his capital and assumed ruling over the kingdom. Thus the entire night passed away as Vishwamitra narrated to Rama the fascinating story of the river Ganga and her descent to the earth. When morning arrived, Ram expressed his eagerness to cross Ganga and continue to journey. The caravan was soon made ready to depart. After reaching the far bank of Ganga, the caravan traveled on, eventually came to the city of Vishala. When Lord Rama requested Vishwamitra to speak about the dynasty of kings that ruled that city, the sage narrated the following history. So these are the story within the story within the stories. So that is why Ramayana becomes so intricate, because it's not just a straightforward story, but then all these places which are known as places of pilgrimages, people actually go there and try to worship there, visit there, and take advantage of those places. So these are the stories. The demigods and demons are by nature inimical towards one another. Once following the advice of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods executed the truce with the demons for purpose of churning nectar from sea. This was done with understanding that when the nectar was churned, both sides would share it equally. Thus, both the demons and the demigods, desiring to become immortal, started for the ocean of milk, taking them Mandara mountain and Vasuki. By the expert arrangement of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons hail the snake near mouth and the demigods hail their tail. Vasuki, which is thousands of eyes and mouths, breathes smoke and blazing fire, which severely wondered the demons. Thus, the demons who appear like trees burned by forest fire gradually became powerless. Because the demigods were also affected by the blazing breath of Vasuki, their body luster diminished, and their garments, garlands, weapons, and faces were blackened by smoke. However, by grace of Supreme Personality of Godhead, clouds appeared on the sea, pouring torrents of rain, and strong breeze carried particles of water from the sea waves, thus giving relief to the demigods. Because of the mountain's great weight, the demigods and the demons became fatigued, and some were dying. Thus, because Mandara mountain was very heavy and was not held by any support, it sank into the ocean. In this way, the prowess of both the demons and demigods was vanquished. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, then appeared on the back of his carrier Garuda. The Lord appeared like a blackish cloud, wearing a garland of flowers. He was dressed with yellow garments and earrings that shone on his ears like lightning. His eyes were pinkish and his hair was spread over his shoulders. By his mercy, he brought the demigods and demons back to life. So many times when we pray, so many common mantras, prayers and shlokas, like here, it reminds me, Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagan Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Virdhanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham. So that was the picture. The Lord then lifted the mountain with one hand and placed it on the back of Garuda. And then he sat on the mountain, and Garuda carried him to the spot of the churning and placed the mountain in the middle of the sea. The Lord then asked Garuda to leave because as long as Garuda was present, Vasuki could not come there. Now, Vasuki is a snake. So what happens that they both are enemies. The Garuda will eat Vasuki and Vasuki will naturally attack Garuda at the same time. And there will be big fight. And unfortunately, they both serve the same master. They both are servants, but they have the same master, one master, Lord Vishnu. So, Lord Vishnu didn't want them together. So they said, they asked Garuda, please fly away, and once you go, Vasuki will come, otherwise he won't come. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing in his incarnation as Kurmavatar, a gigantic tortoise supported on the mountain upon his back. As he lay at the bottom of the ocean, when Lord Vishnu used his strong, glorious arms, which avowed fearlessness throughout the universe, and took hold of Vasuki like a rope and began churning, so that Indra could continue ruling over the three worlds without fear. Indra, however, remained wary. So only yesterday we were actually chanting a beautiful prayer, Keshava Dhruta Kurma Shrira, and so many incarnations we already passed by. But this is actually a detailed description of that particular prayer that we were singing. Sometime later, Diti became very tired and careless, laid down, placing her head there. Her feet normally would rest. In this way, Diti allowed her hair to become contaminated. Taking advantage of this fault, Indra utilized his mystic power to enter her womb. Indra then cut Diti's embryo into 7 parts. When the fetus cried out in shrill voice, he again cut each part into 7, making a total of 49 pieces. Diti, however, could understand that what was happening and begged Indra to stop killing her child. Having been discovered, the repentant Krishna came out from her womb and begged forgiveness from his stepmother. Thus, Diti requested that her 49 children be allowed to become wind gods. Indra agreed, and thus he and Diti were reconciled, while the 49 children became recognized as demigods, known as Maruts. Now, Vishwamitra concluded this city, Vishala, is situated at the place where Diti formerly performed her austerities. Later, the son of Ikshvaku, named Vishala, built the city, and the present king in his dynasty is Sumati. Maharaj Sumati then came out of the city to receive the worship Vishwamitra. At his invitation, the party rested there for a night. The next morning, the caravan again proceeded on the journey towards the kingdom of Videha. Upon reaching the outskirts of Mithila, the capital city of Maharaja Janak, Lord Ram saw an old, desolated hermitage. After Ram inquired about it from Vishwamitra, the Rishi explained. So, again I say this is a story within story and within story and keeps going. So, again, they come up with one new story. And this is also very, very important episode or pastime of Lord Sri Rama. This ashrama formerly belonged to Gautama Rishi, who practiced austerities here along with his wife Ahalya. Once upon a time, knowing that Gautama was away from his ashrama, King Indra assumed a form that closely resembled the rishi. He went to the ashrama in that disguise and approached Gautama's wife, saying, "My dear beautiful one, I desire union with you immediately. Please do not disappoint me." Although Ahalya recognized that it was Indra disguised as Gautama, she did not refuse him, for she too eagerly desired his embraces. Thus the union took place, and after their lusty urges had been gratified, Ahalya begged, "O Indra, please protect us from the wrath of my husband Gautama." Indra assured Ahalya that he would depart immediately, unnoticed by anyone. However, while Indra was sneaking away from Gautama's ashram, the Rishi suddenly returned when Gautama was Indra disguised as himself, his hair hanging. Guys, you cannot run around, okay? If you want to run, go outside. There is a big corridor. Play in the lobby. This is not a kindergarten. Downstairs we have Sunday school. Take them to the Sunday school, Prabhu. They have a swing, they have the beds, wonderful facilities, all the toys. So Indra assured Ahalya that would depart immediately, unnoticed by anyone. However, while Indra was sneaking away from Gautama's ashram, the Rishi suddenly returned when Gautama saw Indra disguised as himself, his head hanging down in shame. He could well understand the nature of this misconduct. Thus, with that anger, the sage cursed Indra, "O lusty fool, may your testicles immediately fall off as punishment for this abominable act." So, no sooner had the curse been pronounced when Indra's testicles fell from his body and dropped to the ground. When, after entering his ashram, Gautama cursed his wife, "O wretched woman, from now on you shall be incapable of eating or drinking, and you will have to lie down on a bed of ashes." The Ahalya was turned into pillar of stone. Gautama then said, "Only when Lord Rama visits this spot in the distant future will you be absolved of your sin, freed from all lusty desires and reunited with your husband." Saying this, Gautama departed for the Himalayas. Meanwhile, Indra informed the demigods, "I have successfully thwarted Gautama Rishi's attempt to attain my position as a king of heaven by making him angry. However, in the process, I have lost my testicles. Now, somehow or other, please arrange for my manhood to be restored." Responding to Indra's plea, the demigods arranged for the Pitas to castrate a ram and grafted its testicles onto Indra's body. After narrating this story, Vishwamitra invited Lord Rama to enter ashram of Gautama. As soon as Ram entered the hermitage, Ahalya regained her original form, dazzling with ascetic splendor. Indeed, upon Ahalya's liberation, there was a sudden shower of celestial flowers, with drums beating in the heavens. Ram and Lakshman respectfully touched Ahalya's feet, and she reciprocally welcomed the two brothers and Vishwamitra. Gautama Rishi, when came to be reunited with his wife, and worshipped Lord Rama and Lakshmana with great reverence. Thereafter, the caravan entered Mithila. Upon arriving at the sacrifice arena of King Janaka, Lord Rama was pleased to see that thousands of Brahmanas had assembled from all parts of the world. Hearing of Vishwamitra's arrival, Maharaj Janak hurriedly went to greet him and address him, saying, O best of saints persons, the sacrifice will take 12 days to complete, with the demigods appearing personally to accept their shares of the offerings. My dear sir, please tell me who these two exalted persons are that are accompanied by you. Indeed, they appear to be like gods in human form. Vishwamitra replied, These two young men are Rama and Lakshmana, the sons of King Dashratha. They have become here to examine the great bow that you have been worshipping. I brought them from Ayodhya to my ashram to kill the Rakshasas. They were disturbing my sacrifice. On the way, they killed the she-demon Tadaka. And then at Siddhashram, Ram hurled Maricha 100 yojans into sea and killed Subahu. Before arriving at Mithila, Ram freed Ahalya from her husband's curse and received the worship of Gautam Rishi. Later, when everyone was comfortably seated, Satana, the chief of priests of Maharaj Janaka, and eldest son of Gautam Rishi, requested Vishwamitra to recount in detail the story of how his mother had regained her original form at the sight of Lord Rama. The sage then happily related the entire incident. Thereafter, Shatanan, the reciprocal, narrating the glorious history of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was born as a son of Gadi and formerly ruled his kingdom as a righteous Kshatriya. Once taking an auctioneer soldiers with him, Vishwamitra began to travel over the earth. In due course, he came upon the hermitage of great Brahmarshi Vasistha. Entering the beautiful hermitage, which was inhabited by many sages, he bowed respectfully before Vasistha, and sage received Vishwamitra cordially, and the two became engaged in friendly conversation. Vasistha said, My dear king, please remain here for a few days as my guest, so that I may entertain you in manner befitting your position. Vishwamitra humbly replied, I am already fully satisfied with my kind reception. I ask only for your permission to leave. Vasistha, however, repeatedly insisted that Vishwamitra and a man remain. Finally, Vishwamitra relented. This being settled, Vasistha brought this Kamadhenu cow named Sabala before Vishwamitra and ordered her to produce a sumptuous royal feast. Being so commanded, the celestial cow immediately brought forth a huge quantity of seemingly unlimited varieties of food and drink, all arranged on sparkling silver platters. Vishwamitra and his man then feasted to their full satisfaction. However, before long, Vishwamitra began to feel envious of Vasistha, wishing he had the celestial cow for himself. As the pangs of greedy surfaced, Vishwamitra told Vasistha, I must have this wonderful cow of yours at all costs. Please give her to me, and I will reward you appropriately. Vishwamitra offered the sage hundreds of thousands of cows, gold, unlimited jewels, and more. Regardless, Vasistha refused to give up his celestial cow, saying, I am very sorry, but I shall never be able to part with this Kamadhenu, even in exchange for 1 billion cows. This wish-fulfilling cow is inseparable from me, for I need her to supply all ingredients of my sacrificial performance. Vishwamitra then replied, "This cow should rightfully belong to me, for the king is meant to possess the very best of everything." Because Vishwamitra's refusal only fanned the flames of Vishwamitra's desire, the king proceeded to offer the sage more and more. Regardless, Vasishtha refused to part with the cow. So, this story, because of it's at Aarti time, we will have to actually cut it short, and we will be presenting you a beautiful Aarti tonight, which is Gaur Aarti. We'll be singing this prayer, as you know, the words already. And if you are home and you have provision of incense, ghee lamp, water, handkerchief, flower or flower petals, chamar or peacock fan, whatever, you may also at the same time offer it to Shri Shri Radha Govinda. Today, this is the most beautiful dress we could offer you before Ram Navami, and have a darshan. They are your guest, you are the host, and with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul, try to please Radha Govinda. Wherever you are watching on your cell phone or on laptop or television, whatever your source is, please enjoy Radha Govinda's company. Those who know the words, like they can chant with me. And we have some more right on the shelf you can pick up. And those who know the words by heart, they can join me chanting also. It's auspicious to do so. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakturinda. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। की बजयो जय गौराचंद आरती को शोभा। की बजयो जय गौराचंद आरती को शोभा। जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा। जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा। दक्षिण निताई चाँद बाम गदाधर। दक्षिण निताई चाँद बाम गदाधर। निकटे अद्वैत श्रीनि वास छत्रधारा। निकटे अद्वैत श्रीनि वास छत्रधारा। बसी आचे गौराचंद रत्न सिंहासन। बसी आचे गौराचंद रत्न सिंहासन। आरती कोरेन ब्रह्मा आदिदेव गणे। आरती कोरेन ब्रह्मा आदि देवगणे नर हरि आदि कोरी चामर जुलाय नर हरि आदि कोरी चामर जुलाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल बहु कोटि चंद्र जिनी वदन उज्ज्वल बहु कोटि चंद्र जिनी वदन उज्ज्वल गल देशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला गल देशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला शिवा शुक नारदा प्रेम गदागदं शिवा शुक नारदा प्रेम गदागदं भक्ति विनोद देखे गोरार संपादा भक्ति विनोद देखे गोरार संपादा की बजाय जय गौरा चंद आरती को शोभं की बजाय जय गौरा चंद आरती को शोभं जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा गौरांग आरती शोभा जगमन मन लोभा गौरांग आरती शोभा जग जन मन लोभा जग जन मन लोभा जग जन मन लोभा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरे Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jai Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jai Gauranitai, 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 Jai Gauranitai. Jai Gauranitai, 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 Jai Gauranitai. Jai Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai Giri Govardhan. Jai Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai Giri Govardhan. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev. नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदा भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासिद्धि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अंतर्विपायपुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदे all good is to assemble devotees, all good is to assemble devotees, all good is to Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlad Lad Dainam. Prahlad Lad Dainam. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaham. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaham. Shilatankan Khalayam. Shilatankan Khalayam. Ito Nasiho Parito Nasiho. Ito Nasiho Parito Nasiho. Yata Yata Mitato Nasiho. Yato Yato Mitato Nasiho. Bahir Nasiho Hridaya Nasiho. Bahir Nasiho Hridaya Nasiho. Narasiham Gadim Sharanam Prapadyam. Narasiham Gadim Sharanam Prapadyam. Tav kar kamal vare nakham adbhuta shringham. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bhringam. Keshavadruta Hari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jaya Nrsingadev, 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 Jaya Nrsingadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्री राधा गोविंद देव की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। बोलो रामचंद्र भगवान की। So Sunday we are having this Ram Navami celebration. Please do come and enjoy the day. Thanks for coming. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.